Jonathan with a Millionaire Reach, and today we're going to be having a brief overview. The first thing we're going to be talking about is my business update. The second thing is we're going to be touching on the personal development, which where we're going to be talking about touching on how we learn. The other thing we're going to be talking about is on our tech team segment, tech talk segment, I mean. And on that segment, we're going to be talking about security for encryption, TLS, and SSL, and then how those work together and what you should be doing on your website, especially if you're taking payments. So we're going to dive in with that business update. So right now I'm just waiting for Lending America to follow up with me. They gave me a call today, so I just have to reach back out to them tomorrow. The personal development, we'll dig into that now here. So for personal development, what I want to talk to you about is how does our brain really work, right? Our brain does three things, and those three things here is your mind deletes, your mind is distorting, and your mind filters. So the information that you consume, your mind will delete it, your mind will filter it, or it would distort the data depending on the kind of information. After it filters it through and says, if it's important or not. If it's not that important, it might distort that data, so you make room for other information that's more important to you. And then if it's not important at all, it just deletes it, so you don't have to think about it. Now, why is this important and how we learn? So this is really important because there's three ways that you learn. You learn from your touch of you doing it, you learn from your ears when you hear it, and you learn from you reading when you see it, right? So those are the three ways you learn. You learn from consuming the information, hearing the information, or actually applying the information with your hands. Those are the three main types, and for me at least, it's really helpful for me if I hear it and I touch it. If I read it, like if I read books, I don't know, it's something with me that I just get so just bored just looking at words. Like it doesn't really talk to me, like I need to hear it or I need to touch it. I need to use it, for me to grasp how it works. And if I don't do that, then that can cause issues. Now, reading, if I'm super interested in it, then I read it. I can take it in, but I'd rather have a video or audio of how it works and then me apply how it works or when I see it and hear it and stuff, rather than me just reading something, because that just gets really boring for me. But yeah, let's dive into our Tech Talk segment, and then we'll go from there. So let's dive into our Tech Talk. So we're going to see how it's defined as TLS and SSL for the encryption methods, and what specifically is defined as. So what is the difference between TLS and SSL? So SSL is a cryptographic protocol that uses explicit connections to establish secure communication between the web server and client. This can be used on any kind of client device. That's why they say it's a client rather than a computer. So it's anything that can have an internet connection that has a web browser. TLS is also a cryptographic protocol that provides a secure communication between the web server and client via implicit connections. It's the successor of the SSL protocol. So this is a more advanced protocol than the SSL. SSL 3 has now become deprecated, and TLS is basically replacing that. Now there have been different versions of TLS, TLS 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is the most current version. So if you are having people making payments online, you want to make sure you're on 1.3 just to make sure you're at the latest standard, so you're not violating any kind of policies for customers' transactions. So And that's more for like a liability reason as well here. So let's take a look at how it works. All right, so you can see on the screen here that sends a request off, and this description is what they have. Hello, let's set up a secure SSL session. So they create a session that sends the certificate to the server, and then the server responds with this certificate. This certificate checks a bunch of different things, and after they basically verify and talk together, then it sends the encryption key. So it sends the encryption key via the certificate from your computer first. And then after it does that, the server sends a response. Now that response is on step 4. The server decrypts the session key, and then using its own private key, and establishes that connection to your client computer. All right, so let's dive into that a little bit more here. So we're on Ontra, and on Ontra, we want to see what this looks like. So if I go here, I check the certificate, this is what it brings up. And now you can see the certificate path. So this path right here, this is actually being brought by Let's Encrypt, and we'll dive into that a little bit soon here. But basically, Let's Encrypt lets you send a method. It's open source, and basically what it does is it lets you use the certificate for free, and you use the latest encryption as well. Now in the details, it gives you like the version number, a bunch of information, serial number, signature, algorithm. This is SH1 RSA, and then it gives you, the date that it's valid till. So from Saturday, September 30th to Thursday, September 30th. So it renews every day basically, and it just sends a request out in regards to that. And then there's a bunch of stuff that happens within this that I won't go over, but these are just like the fine details of what you would expect to see in our certificate. If you're more interested in that, I would just dig into the documentation and you can learn more about it. But this is issued to entrainstitute.com. It's an R3, and it's valid here. The whole certificate is valid from. So the other thing that we were looking at is just the date it was sent, and then it responded back with. This is how long the certificate is actually valid for. So you can see here that it's valid for around 3 months here. And yeah, so that basically tells you what it is and who issued it. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more here. So SSL has been 3.0 has been deprecated. So if you do have that and you, I wouldn't use that anymore. I would probably switch to TLS, just because you're exposing them to a potential security breach, and you really shouldn't do that. So let's look into the vulnerability of the Poodle attack. So if you go into here, TLS is 1.3 is the newest version, so you want to make sure it's supported, but let's dig into the Poodle attack here quick. So this gives you all the information about the Poodle attack for SSL 3, and it tells you exactly what happens, what's the impact, what's the solution. It gives you all these different resources if you do have SSL 3 on your certificates. And then we're going to dive into Let's Encrypt. So Let's Encrypt does a free method. It's a free certificate that you can have on any website, and a lot of the platforms you have integrations with it, so you can just use it. Basically what it does is it sends an API request, which stands for Application Programming Interface. That sends a request off to this server based on your domain. It sends a response back, and then makes sure that the domain has that certificate on the server. So when someone sends you a request asking to connect, it says, "Hey, I have TLS 1.3," and it sends that request back with the right information that you need. All right. So now we're going to dig into Antra. So this is just a general tool. It's called whyknopadlock.com. I'll have these resources actually in the link, but what it does is it lets you test what kind of encryption it has, and then it gives you a pass or fail. So we did ontrainstitute.com. You can see this test I actually ran on the 13th, which is a couple days ago. It lets you know that it's using Let's Encrypt. It's using the certificate, the R3, the issue date, web servers forcing SSL. Now this can be SSL or TLS, just depending. We'll get into more like detail in there here in a minute. The certificate was correctly installed. These are the domains that it's affecting. And then 256, this is the encryption type. And then, yeah, and that's about it. And then it has no mixed content, so it passes that. That's if you had bad content in the certificate. But yeah, let's go into this here. This is another one called, this is the one I probably recommend. It's globalsign.sslabs.com, and this analyzes everything. So this is pretty amazing. So the server's running 1.3, which is good because they are taking transactions, tons of transactions, and that has the most recent encryption. But it really goes in depth and it tells you exactly what you're seeing. So it tells you the fingerprint. Fingerprint is the identifier of what kind of encryption it has. And it goes into like the serial number, the valid, how long it's valid for. The key is the mathematical equation of the different, how many bits it has for the encryption, and that's what makes it so secure. And then it also gives you like the algorithm here, transparency, and then gives you like more information. They have DNS, CAA. They don't have that on here. If you wanted to know more about that, you could learn exactly what that is and how that works. But yeah, we're not going to dive too much into that. That's really in depth here. Let me go back. Sorry about that. Go back here quick. All right. And then if we get down here, this actually is so cool. This is like the configuration, the meat and potatoes, where you can see all the cipher stuff. So it tells you what protocols they're using. SSL 2, no. SSL 3, no. TLS 1.0, no. TLS 1.2, no. 2 and 3, and this tells you the compatibility of the handshaking with all the different devices down here. But this tells you, you know, what it has for the algorithm, what it's exactly doing, and a lot of these are fulfilled. So some of this stuff isn't fulfilled. That's just because it's done a different way here. But that's all right. You don't really need to dig into that. That's more for like a cybersecurity expert. And then you could take a look at that and see, you know, why this is showing and weak here. But a lot of the main meat and potatoes here is this 1.3. As long as that's being done and you're having that in the main content here, that's all that really matters. Now this is what it's doing. So on all these different devices, they have compatibility problems with just different devices that you have for the browser. So this tells you, yep, 1.2 on this device, because this is the newest version of that. 1.2, Android 8.1, the release, they can handle this new encryption method. So basically it runs whatever version it can for the device that you have for the browser. So it's cross browser compatible, just depending on what version of the browser that you have. And this tells you, yeah, it tells you a bunch of information of, you know, what it's doing for the browsers and what encryption method it's using. And then down here, it tells you the protocol details, what it's testing, and and what are these other things that could be wrong potentially. But yeah, it's really nice, and you can look into that if you have any questions and see what could be an issue and a vulnerability, an exploit, or a security breach potentially, and figure out exactly what it is. So Ontra Institute right now has an A rating, which is really, really good. That you really don't see like a lot of websites on the web that have that. So yeah, that's really good for them to be able to have that kind of security. But yeah, what you can do here is you can search any domain to see what the certificate strength is for whatever website you want. It lists the IP of the website, so you can see that, and then you can see who is the host of the website, and there's a bunch of other information that you can look for. But yeah, I would just look more into that, and if you're super interested in that, there's a lot of documentation on here as well. They have a lot of great information. So if you were to go down here and you were just interested in the beast attack, click more info, and it'll give you, is beast still a threat? What is beast? And you can really dig into the tech side of things of what it could be, what kind of attacks. I'm not that interested in that, but if I wanted to make sure that things were fine, that I could go in there and take a look and see if that would be a potential issue, depending on the TLS. I think TLS 1.4 is coming out, and that's supposed to be really good, but it hasn't been released yet from what I know. But yeah, thanks for joining the Tech Talk Ontra Nation, and if you're following me on YouTube or any social media platforms, I'm glad you're able to attend. If you have any other questions for me, just let me know, and then we'll go from there. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and you guys have a great rest of your day.